The Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe has issued a recommendation to its member states on the processing of personal health-related data for insurance purposes, including data from genetic tests. How important is the whole area of protection of personal health-related data going to be for all of us?
I think it's increasingly important because we're now moving away from a system of your doctor holding all of your medical information. We're now more dispersed. We go to different health clinics. We might have personal fitness devices. We might take part in research studies. And these data are all relevant to you, but not all held by your doctor. Personal data is sensitive data. Personal health data is very sensitive data. Some of this data may relate to you and your family long time in the future. And I think also insurance is increasingly important in societies, but it varies enormously. And what we wanted to try and do is balance the human rights about personal data as well as the interests of the insurance in society.
Now, your specific interest here is in predictive health data. What do we mean when we talk about predictive health data?
So what we normally mean is somebody who's healthy or has no particular medical symptoms is told that they may be at risk of something later in life, and often it will be something like a slightly higher risk of cancer or heart disease, or maybe some degenerative condition like a neuromuscular disease, and they just don't know what to do with that information.
So is there a danger that predictive data could be wrong, as in the fact that someone could be denied medical insurance as a result, or have to pay disproportionately high insurance premiums as a result of the data not being right?
That is the main concern. Often the tests are very accurate, but the interpretation is not quite clear. It may be based on old studies. Medical practice is moving all the time. New drugs are coming out. So sometimes these risk predictions are the ones that are slightly flawed.
How reliable can predictive data be, having said what you just said?
I think it's reliable in terms of the quality of the test often, but what we don't know is how likely that is to impact an individual. The usual aim of a predictive test is actually to give the individual something they can do about it. They could try and look for signs and symptoms earlier and maybe take earlier preventive action, or more radically, for example, the Angelina Jolie case where she decided because of her risk of breast and ovarian cancer to have a breast removal and reconstruction. So these are things that patients need to have information about.
The recommendation states that predictive genetic tests for insurance purposes must not be carried out. Why has there been that stipulation?
Well, that comes from the original Convention on Human Rights and Biomedicine, Article 12, and that's really to make sure that nobody has to take a genetic test just to get an insurance product. Genetic tests should be done for medical reasons only.
What sort of safeguards are in place then to make sure that insurance companies don't say, well, we're not going to insure you because you don't sign up here for genetic testing?
That's really what the recommendation is about. Insurance companies need to look back at their duties under standard data protection conventions and legislation. They have to justify why they want that personal data, sensitive data. They need your consent to get that data, and they need to use that safely and store it securely.
No predictive genetic tests for insurance purposes, but yet one of the provisions in the recommendation says that insurers should take account of new scientific knowledge. Isn't there a bit of a contradiction there?
Well, I think what we're trying to aim at is that if you have a test taken maybe earlier in life and you're about to buy a short-term insurance policy, the insurers really need to check whether that data is still relevant and whether it's relevant for that insurance product. They have to take into account scientific knowledge. That's one of the key principles we've set out.
How likely is it that this recommendation could become legally binding on member states?
We haven't gone for a legally binding protocol. We have done some work on genetic testing. There is a protocol on genetic testing. But the problem we've got with this area is it's moving very rapidly, and insurance is widely different across the member states of the Council of Europe. Sometimes there are medical, so healthcare insurance systems, sometimes there are private insurance systems, and we couldn't really cater for that level of variation in a legally binding text at this stage.
So what's to say that all 47 members won't toe the line?
Well, I think we're set out some 7 very basic principles, most of which are really aimed at the insurance industry to justify why they want data. There are some at member states which is about really making sure there are systems to both check the validity of a test independently of the insurance company, and also to put in place some sort of procedures if there is a dispute.